Hello everyone and welcome back to the Yoga as Medicine for Athletes series. This week we're talking about the hips. A couple days ago I posted a blog on the website all about the hips, just diving a little bit deeper into the anatomy of the hips, some common injuries that occur within the hips, reasoning behind some of the body movements that we do in the video, as well as a little piece about self-love and hips. So if you're curious about that, I'm going to link that blog in the description of this video, so I really encourage you to go and check that out because those blogs are really designed to be a complement to the video. As much as I like to pack in as much anatomy and reasoning for why we're doing what we're doing on the mat in the video, for time's sake, it's just better to put everything, because I'm a wordy person, in the blog for you to just read separately. So I really encourage you to do that. In terms of the video today, as you can see, I have my kind of pile of props here. Don't let that frighten you. There's only two that you most certainly do need, but can take other things in place of them if you don't have. So we have the yoga strap that we're going to be using today. Super easy to replace if you don't have a yoga strap lying around, which I don't expect you to. You can use a belt, you can use a wrapped up towel. You can actually get really creative about what you could use it in place of a yoga strap. So something in place of that, as well as a bolster. Again, something I don't expect you to have laying around your house. Any pillow will work. So just any type of pillow. A blanket is optional. This is just going to act as cushioning for the knees, or if we want to lift our hips up to sit on the blanket. So grab a blanket just in case. It doesn't have to be this type of yoga blanket. And then I have yoga blocks here. Again, this is just something certain people who might lack flexibility in certain areas might find the blocks useful to lift the earth up to them. But if you don't have blocks handy, it's totally fine. You can either use textbooks, really thick textbooks, or just let it go and it's no big deal. Okay, so like I said, this is the video about the hips. So we're not only going to be focusing on the hips, that's our main focus, but there's a lot of different body parts, joints, muscles, tendons, tissues, so many other things that can either be affected by the hips or from the hips that we're going to be focusing on strengthening, lengthening, stretching as well. So without further ado, let's get into it. So we're going to start today on our hands and knees in our tabletop position, coming into a cat-cow. So just making sure that your wrists are in line with your shoulders, knees in line with the hips, and we'll start to drop our belly down, look up, breathing in, and exhale, rounding your spine. Dropping the belly down, looking up, and exhale, rounding the spine. Cat and cow is an awesome warm-up series, little flow, because it's great to bring a little flexibility to the spine. It strengthens your lower back, your abdominals, so there's a lot of stuff going on. And we're getting right into it. So your cat and cow should definitely feel good. You should feel the spine start to get a little loose. We'll just do a couple more before we move on. Just let your body write the script for you here, right? So if you want to break out of your regular cat-cow here, maybe add a little hip movement from side to side, maybe circle the hips around a little bit, just kind of taking a freestyle moment. Please feel free to. It's not always about what I'm saying, right? Because ultimately your body is going to be the judge of what you can and can't do. So just let your body write the script for you, coming into something that feels natural and awesome. Good. Take one more breath of exploration. And then we're going to come back into our tabletop. I'm just going to scooch up for a second for what we're about to do. So what I want you to do from this tabletop first is just stretch your right leg back behind you, bring the toes down on the ground, and and just slowly start to rock back and forth with that leg behind you. And I want you to make sure that you're not dumping all of your weight into your hands. I want you to feel like you're lifting up, right? So you're plugging the shoulders down and away from the ears. And with this little back and forth motion of the toes, you're stretching the back of the leg. You're feeling the calf muscle stretch. And then when you're ready, see if you can maybe take off with those toes just slightly, right? So your hip is still staying nice and aligned here. And trying as best you can not to open out the hip to the side with that leg. It's natural for your hip to open up a little bit, but you try to keep it squared down to the mat as much as possible and keep your navel drawing in towards your spine here. So you don't want that little curve here at the lumbar spine, the sacrum. Okay? And then if you can from here, take it another step and maybe that opposite arm, your left arm, the bicep stretches alongside the ear. You make your hand like you're about to shake someone's hand right here. This is a balancing cat pose, and it's a great prep pose, right, for future balancing poses because you're nice and low to the ground, so you're not as afraid if you fall, you're not falling as far as if you're standing up, and you're still getting all of the great benefits of a balancing pose. We'll hold this for one more breath. Inhale. And exhale, we're going to take it back to a child's pose. Knees out if you want to stretch the hips a little bit more. Knees closer in together to feel a stretch and lengthen in the lower back. Good, one breath here before we come back up and into our balancing cat on the other side. Good, coming back up to our tabletop, inhale. And stretching our left leg back behind us. Good. I think I need to walk up a little bit further. Good, coming back and forth again. So another great thing about the balancing cat pose is that it also strengthens the abdominal muscles as well as the lumbar spine, the glutes, and the thigh muscles. So there's a lot of stuff going on in just that little balance. And here we go, lifting the toes up, trying not to open out that hip to the side, keeping the toes flexed down, pushing out of our hands, and then maybe seeing if we could take this time that right bicep, stretch it alongside the ear, like you're about to shake someone's hand. Good, we'll hold for 2 breaths, nice and strong. One more, inhale. And exhale to slowly release it back to your child's pose. Now we're going to do those same motions, but we're going to make a little vinyasa out of it. We're going to make a little flow. So what that means is we're going to link our breath with our movement. So here we go. We're going to inhale, come into our balancing cat on one side. And then exhale, bring the tush back, come into a little child's pose. And then inhale, you come into your balancing cat on the other side. Exhale, coming back, tush down onto the heels. Inhale, balancing cat on the other side. Exhale, coming back, heel, tush onto heels. Inhale, balancing cat. Exhale, child's pose. Inhale, balancing cat. Exhale, child's pose. We'll do that a couple more. So link your breath with your movement so everything's one fluid motion. Exhale down. Inhale up. Exhale down. Inhale up. Exhale. Inhale. Exhale. Inhale. Couple more. Exhale. Inhale. Exhale. Inhale. One more. Exhale. Inhale. Exhale, hold it back, child's pose. Stretch those arms out. Good, just feeling the blood flow a little bit more, creating a little heat in the body maybe. Good, taking one more breath here in our child's pose before we're going to take it up to a downward facing dog. So here we go, making our way into our downward facing dog, tucking the toes under and pressing our hips back. Just start to pedal out the feet a little bit. And as you pedal out the feet, I want you to go nice and slow and mindfully so you kind of feel everything that's going on in the joints within your body, right? So feel every little creak, every little snap, whatever it is, just feel it, right? So we're just tapping into that awareness in our body. And then bring the heels down as close to the mat as you can, even if it's just energetically. And then we're going to bring the weight in towards our left leg. Slowly begin to slide that right leg up into a three-leg dog. And then bending the right heel open towards the left glute. Opening up our hip out to the side. Good, one more inhale. Good, and then slowly lifting it back up to that three-leg dog. Now from here, we're going to slowly bend the knee and squeeze it all the way up and in between our hands. Drop that back knee down and slowly come up. Now we're in a low lunge here. So you can either keep your hands on top of your thigh, or if you have the space, maybe you slowly inhale, lift the arms up, bringing the shoulders down and away from the ears. So now here in your low lunge is that spot where you might want to grab that blanket to create some extra cushioning underneath that knee. So if you'd like, feel free to go bring that blanket down there now. So in our low lunge, the main muscle that we're stretching here is the psoas muscle. And that psoas muscle is a big buzzword in the yoga community right now. So I'm sure you've heard it before. It's a very large muscle that runs from your abdominal cavity, down your hips, and all the way to the thighs. And it's responsible for a lot of pain in the hips, glutes, low back, thighs, a lot of different places. We'll hold this for one more breath before we come back to our downward facing dog. Good, exhale, taking the hands down to frame the foot. We tuck the back toes under and lift ourselves back up to that downward facing dog. More on that low lunge and psoas muscle in a moment. Here we go, now bringing the weight into the right leg, we lift that left leg up, coming into that three-leg dog, and then bending the heel in towards the right glute and opening up that hip to the left side of the room. Okay, then holding for a moment. Good, slowly straightening it back up. And from here, slowly coming any way you need to take it up in between the hands. And slowly drop that back knee down. And slowly making your way to your low lunge on the other side, either taking the hands on top of the thigh or lifting the arms up. So the psoas muscle, what I was going to say in terms of athletes, a lot of runners have tight psoas muscles, or any sport that involves running. So there's a whole bunch that can be said about the psoas muscle. If you're more interested about it, I did write a little bit about it in the blog, so you can go look at the blog and read a little bit more. Holding this low lunge for one more breath. Good, exhale, taking hands down to frame the foot, tucking the right toes under, lifting that knee up, and sending it back to your downward facing dog. Alrighty, here we go. in your downward facing dog, you're going to cross your right ankle over your left. So you come into like a cross-legged downward dog. You're slowly gonna walk your hands back towards those feet and either let your hands hang. If you can, bring the hands down to the mat. If you do have blocks, this is where blocks can be helpful. To take some blocks and bring your hands to the blocks so you can really fold. So here we're stretching a tissue that is called the IT band. Now the IT band runs down the side of the thigh all the way down to right below the knee. So a tight IT band, again, is very common in runners. And the IT band can become very irritated and inflamed. And that can cause a lot of pain in the glutes, the thigh, and even the knee. So it's very important to stretch out the IT band. And a lot of IT band pain can also be referral pain from the hip as well. Good. From here, we're going to slowly roll ourselves all the way up to stand, keeping those legs crossed. We're going to come into a revolved half moon position with our legs crossed like this. So you're going to inhale the arms up, clasp the hands. They come all the way up towards the ceiling, and then you're just going to take a little twist over towards the right, so you feel your left side body opening up. Maybe you bring the gaze up as well. Good. Inhale it back up to center. Exhale, hands come out to a T as you slowly fold yourselves all the way back down. And then slowly making your way back into that downward facing dog and uncrossing the legs. Shake it out a little bit. Maybe shake out the hips. And then we're going to cross the other side. So now your left ankle comes over your right. Slowly walking the hands back. Either again letting your hands hang, or coming to block, or coming down to the mat. So there's no shame if you need to use blocks, or again if you have that textbook that you want to use. It's actually better that way, because if you're forcing yourself into a stretch that your body's not meant to be in right now, or your body's not properly worked or warmed up, you can actually end up injuring yourself that way. So don't ever push yourself too far. I forgot what I was going to say. I'm really getting into the stretch. It feels good. You just want to meet your peaceful edge, right? And never push further than that. Everyone has that peaceful, appropriate edge that's not meant to be pushed past. Here we go, slowly rolling ourselves all the way up, keeping that cross-legged position. Inhale, lifting the arms up. Fingertips cross, palms up to the sky. Slowly begin to tilt your body over towards the left, feeling that right side body open up. Maybe bring your gaze slightly up. Inhale it back to center. Exhale, arms out to that T as you slowly fold all the way down. Slowly walking yourselves back into that downward facing dog and uncrossing the legs. And then just coming to give yourself a little shake out. And then now, just staying in that regular foot position with your downward facing dog, you're going to slowly walk the hands all the way back towards the feet, just coming into a regular forward fold here. Grab opposite elbows and let your head hang nice and heavy. Keep a nice generous bend in the knees here. Just letting gravity take over. Slowly releasing the arms down. and rolling yourselves all the way up. Good, so as you're standing up when we're down on the mat for a little bit, you might need to take a moment to kind of shake it out, fix your clothes, fix your hair, whatever you need to do. For me, that means taking my blanket away for the next thing we're gonna do. So what I wanna do before we get into the next posture is get a little bit more into your proper stance when you're standing up, which I know it sounds so silly because it's like it's standing up, right? But hip width distance apart is something that a lot of people don't necessarily grasp. And when I say hip width distance apart, a lot of people think that it means the distance between the flesh of your hips. But actually what hip width distance apart is the distance between your hip joints. And the two hip joints are more close to the midline of the body rather than the outer part of your hips. So a good trick, and this is in the blog also a lot more in depth, but a trick of knowing what hip width distance apart is you take one foot to the outside of the other, ankle to ankle, and then where your toes end up is where your foot should be. So I come here, I turn my foot around, bam, this is my hip width distance apart for my body. So then once you come in your hip width distance apart, you feel the shoulders drop down away from the ears, open out the palms of your hands, press your pelvis forward slightly, keep a nice bend in the knees, broaden the collarbones, and just let breath flow. So when we're physically open, we are emotionally open. When we're physically closed, right, when we're like this, we're emotionally closed off. And that also affects our breath, right? If you think about it logically, when we're opened up and our chest is open, breath is able to flow more effectively. So a lot to remember and a lot of importance in just standing Tadasana pose. All right, so we're gonna get a little bit more into the IT band with one more posture and then continue working on our psoas. So it's going to involve another forward fold. So let's inhale our arms up, shoulders drawing down and away. Exhale to fold down. Now you're gonna take a nice big generous bend in the right knee. Plant your hand on the mat. If you can't plant your hand all the way down on the mat, grab something, again, maybe that block or whatever you have, to lift the earth up to you so you can really root your hand down. And then the leg that's straight, you're gonna open up the palm of your hand up out to the sky and reach your chest towards that side of the room. So you should really feel that stretch in the side of the left leg. Good, holding here. Almost imagine like someone is grabbing that left hand and really pulling it up and to the side of the room. One more deep inhale, feel your chest open up even more. And exhale to fold all the way down. Good, shake it out. And now we'll take that on the other side. So now bending super deeply and super generously in that left knee. And keeping that right leg nice and straight. Now, you open up that right arm all the way up to the sky. And feel your chest open up towards the right side of the room, bringing that gaze up. Good, feel that hand lift. One more inhale, feel yourself open up even more. And exhale to slowly release it all the way down. Good, just shaking it out a little bit. Letting your head fall. And nice and easy and slow, rolling up all the way. So you always want to go slow so you don't get dizzy. Good, coming up. Now we're going to come into a warrior one, which is also going to get deep into the hip flexor. Great stretch for the hip flexor. So take your hands on your hips, and then just take a big step forward with that right leg. And then that left leg is going to open up into a diagonal stance. And the goal is to get your heel to be down, planted down to the mat. So that back left leg is nice and straight, heel is down, and then your front leg as best you can, as close you can to 90 degrees. So here, you're really feeling that stretch right here in the inner groin muscles. And then you take your hands to your hips. The reason why I like to teach it with the hands to the hips first is because a lot of times our hips want to come out to the side of that leg that's behind us. So you want to take your hips and really kind of shift yourself so your hips are faced towards the front of the room rather than to the side. And then again, lifting the arms up if you can. If you need, you keep your hands to your hips the whole time, and that's totally fine. Otherwise, you bring the arms up overhead, and again, you really feel that chest lift, and you feel breath flow through the body. Making sure that that front foot, you're not digging into your toes. Good, inhale. Exhale, if your hands are up, take the hands to the hips. You're gonna straighten that front leg now. Take a little step forward with the back leg. We're headed into a triangle pose, so you want your back foot to step in a little bit closer. And we're gonna slowly begin to hinge from the hips. Very important that when you're coming down, you're not just coming down with your head first, rather you're coming down like this, right? Because it helps take strain off the lower back when we hinge this way. And slowly begin to come down as close you can to bringing the chest down to your thigh. And then once you can't go down even more, that's when your hands come down either to the ankle, down to the mat, or again, you grab those blocks or those books and hold on to them here. So you're going to be feeling that deep stretch, back of your leg, hamstring muscles working here. We just hold that stretch for a couple of breaths, really letting you get deep into the muscles. Making sure that even if this is an intense stretch for you, not to let it strain your breath, okay? So you always want to keep that breath nice and deep. And of course, if it's feeling like it's too intense, you just come up a little bit, right? So you don't have to prove yourself to anyone. This is just a YouTube video, so there's no one else watching anyway. So you can kind of just really focus on what works for your body here, not worry about who's watching. And then to come out of this posture, you're gonna lift yourself up slightly so you come into a flat back. Slightly bend the knee, so don't force it, right? Just a little slight bend, and then slowly begin to roll yourselves all the way up. And then just step that foot up to meet the front. Feel the difference between right and left. It's pretty crazy. Shake it off for a second, and then we go on to the other side. So take your hands onto your hips, and then this time, taking the right leg back behind you, so taking that nice big step back. As best you can to bring that leg 90 degrees. Mine doesn't go 90 degrees, there's no shame in that, right? We're working where we are today. Now keep your hands on your hips first, because your hips are gonna wanna shift out to the side. You slowly start to move them to become towards the front of the room. Alrighty, now if you can, slowly begin to lift the arms up overhead, drop the shoulders down away from the ears, and maybe bring your gaze up. Maybe even come into a slight little back bend, making sure that you're not digging into the toes of that front left foot. Good, one more big deep inhale. And exhale, taking the hands to the hips, taking that little step forward with that back leg, straightening the front foot. Inhale, exhale, again, making sure you're hinging from the hips. Bring your chest down as close as you can to the thigh, and then grabbing hold of your blocks, your ankle, or the mat. Feel that nice, generous stretch in the back of the leg. So now see if you can find a little ease, maybe even a little comfort in that uneasiness discomfort of that deep stretch. That's a very yogi thing. It's actually one of the Yoga Sutras. Finding a little comfort in your deep stretch. One more inhale. Good, and on your next breath in, you slowly bend the knee. Slowly start to bring yourselves all the way up and step that foot up to meet the front. Good. Shake it out for a second. And then we're going to make our way back down to the mat. So I'm just going to step to the back of my mat first. Inhaling my arms up. Exhale to come all the way down. Once I'm in my forward fold, I'm going to gently bend my knees until they come all the way down to the mat. Open up my knees, sit down on my tush, and now I'm going to come into my child's pose just like that. Take 2 breaths here to reset before we come into our seated series. Just notice any differences in your hips or any part of your body since when you first sat down on your mat. Maybe you feel a little bit more open in certain places. Just notice even if there's some emotions that come up throughout it, just give yourself a moment to feel what's different than when I was last in this child's pose. And then we're going to slowly shift our tushies back down onto the mat. And we're going to come into a Baddha Konasana butterfly pose. So this is just a nice, gentle way to stretch the hips. Well, it can be gentle if you want to intensify it, and I'll show you how to do that too. So this is another place that you can grab that blanket if you would like. So what the blanket can do for you here in this position is just lift the hips up a little bit higher so it can take a little pressure and strain off that stretch. So if you want, come sit on the edge of a blanket. And then also what you can do here is take your blocks. If your knees are rising all the way up and further away from the earth, you could take the blocks and take them underneath your knees. Just takes a little strain off. All right, inhaling, lifting the arms up overhead. And exhale, folding down over your legs. Good, nice fold. So if you're feeling like, okay, you know, this stretch is pretty easy, I think I could go a little bit deeper, you bring your heels in closer towards the body. That creates a deeper stretch in the hips. Or if you're like, oh my goodness, I can barely even sit up like this, how am I going to fold? Bring the heels further away from the body. It lessens the intensity of that just a bit. Maybe feel comfortable enough to walk your hands over towards the right side, feeling that gentle stretch in the left side body. And maybe you walk your hands over to the left side of the body, or the left side, and feel a stretch in the right side body. Walking your hands back to center, and then slowly sliding your hands back up. So not only does that one stretch your hips, but it also stretches your lumbar spine, your lower back as well. So great one for a lot of different things. Now the next pose that we're going to do is meant to stretch out your piriformis, which is one of your butt muscles. It's one of the top portions. So you get a lot of knots in there. Again, those the runners out there, that's another place where you tend to get really, really tight. So it's nice to stretch it out. And even if you have, well, I'll show you once we get into the pose, ways to get the knots out. of that booty muscle. So you're going to start with your feet planted on the mat, hands behind you. And then you're going to take your left ankle and cross it over your right thigh. So almost like this figure four stretch. So you're also stretching the hip flexors and the inner groin muscles as well. Now to intensify this stretch, if this is super easy for you, you can slide that right ankle in closer towards your tush. To lessen the stretch, you make it a little bit further away. And again, here's another pose where you want to make sure that you're not dunking your weight down, right? Because then your shoulders are hiking up. So a great way to get the nuts out of your glutes and your piriformis is if you have a lacrosse ball, to come in this position, lift your tush up, stick a lacrosse ball under there, and kind of roll back and forth, working the knots out. So that's an awesome thing to do if you have a lacrosse ball laying around. We'll just switch on to the other side, crossing your right over your left. Again, maybe this side is different and you're able to come up a little bit further. For me, my hips are very tight. More on that in the blog if you're interested about my hip history. So I stay a little bit further away. Good, and slowly releasing it down. All right, we're gonna do a little abdominal work, nothing crazy. This is just a little teaser for a later video. I'm not sure if it's gonna be next week or the week after when we do core. But we're gonna do a little boat pose here. So don't get scared, right? It's not going to be that bad. There's plenty of modifications you can do. So first you're gonna take your arms out to the side or keep them underneath your thighs. And you're just gonna bring your back down a little bit, right? So you automatically feel the core engaged here. And for some of you, this is gonna be enough right here. If you feel that engagement, perfectly fine, stay here, you're working your core here. If you feel like you can go a little bit deeper, maybe you lift one leg up. Maybe this is enough. Maybe you lift the other leg up. Maybe you work on straightening one leg. Maybe you work on straightening the other. So here in your boat pose, you're strengthening the abdominals and you're also working on your hip flexors here. What we're going to be talking about in that core video that's coming up is the connection between the hip flexors and the abdominals, and how a lot of times people I see all the time in my classes will use the hip flexors rather than the abdominals in exercises that are meant to strengthen and tone the abs. Right, so there's that connection that exists. Good, one more inhale. Exhale to slowly take it down, and we're going to come all the way down to our backs from here. Oh. Just taking the knees in towards the chest and rocking a little bit from side to side. And from here, we're just going to open up into a happy baby, so you can either grab your toes, the tops of your feet, or your ankles, and just gently open the legs up to about a 90-degree angle, and continue rocking side to side. Massaging the lower spine here, while also sending a bit of love to our hips. Good. Hug those knees back in. Slowly bring the feet down to the mat. We're going to come into a little bridge pose. So walk your feet a little bit closer to your tush. So the distance you want your feet to be is basically if you extend your arms out, your heels are almost in line with your fingers. And we're going to lift our tissues up as much as you can, but to a place that's comfortable and sustainable. Now, in your bridge pose, you don't want your knees opening out to the side. So you almost want to imagine like you're squeezing a block. And maybe if you do have a block, take that block to really squeeze. So then you're engaging the thighs more here. And then you also feel the glutes engaged. So the glutes and the thighs are squeezing together. So needless to say here, you're strengthening the thigh muscles and the glutes here, as well as the hamstrings and some other places that are working in your bridge pose. So we'll take one more inhale to see if you can lift the hips up a little bit higher. And exhale to slowly release everything down. Awesome. Now coming into our hamstring series, and this is where you're going to need that belt, that strap, that folded towel, whatever you have. So we're going to start by keeping your left foot planted on the mat like you have it before, like you have it right now. And we're going to work with that right leg. So taking the strap right over the right inside of the foot, middle of the foot. And just stretching that leg up towards the ceiling. Now, if you're more flexible, maybe you're able to really get close to that foot. But I don't want you to be lifting your shoulders up or your head up off the mat. So if getting all the way close to your foot requires that, just keep it down low. All right, if you feel any type of stretch in the back of the leg, in the hamstring, you're good. You don't need to overstrain and get too close. Now, if you want to take it a step further from here, if you feel like this is bearable, you can slide that left leg out straight. So then that intensifies it just slightly. Now, really flex your foot here. You'll feel that stretch a little bit more. And maybe work on bringing the toes slightly closer to your face. And what I want you to imagine is like I'm taking my hand and placing it right behind the heel of your right foot. And I want you to imagine like I'm applying a little bit of pressure to your heel, and you want to push away, right? So I'm pushing your heel a little bit closer. So I'm pushing into your heel, and your heel is pushing back, right? So you're really activating all the muscles in the back of the leg. See if you can bring it a little bit closer to your face. And then we're going to take the strap, both sides of the strap, in your right hand. And take your left hand right on the left side of the hip. And we're going to slowly, keeping that flex of the foot, take your leg out to the right side of the body. Now you feel a stretch in that inner thigh. So the reason why we're taking our hand to the left side of our hip is because here we're going to want to turn our glutes up off the mat. So you want to keep your buttocks down. Feel that stretch. Good. One more breath. Inhale. And exhale it out. Next inhale, slowly bring that leg back up. And now we take that stretch to the other side. So now this time transferring both sides of your strap into the left side of the left hand. And slowly coming into a twist. Noticing that I don't have the space to do that on this side. Moving that leg all the way to the other side. And this time you can let the glutes come up on the right side. So you come into a twist, and now we're feeling it on the right side of the leg here, even into our butt muscles here. So this is stretching now more so the IT band, and you're also getting that spinal twist action going on. So a lot going on here. Good, and on your next inhale, bringing that leg back up. And then slowly removing the strap, and keeping that foot flexed, slowly bring it down to meet the other leg. Notice the difference. Take a minute to just notice the difference between the sensations and awareness of what's going on in your right compared to what's going on in the left. Hopefully you feel a little bit longer and lengthened on the right side. Alrighty, so let's even it out and go to the left side. So bend both knees, feet on the mat, and coming to wrap that strap around the left foot. So again, flexing that foot, feel everything engaged. Imagining like I have my hand on your heel, applying pressure. So you're slowly trying to bring your toes closer towards your forehead. Feeling no strain in the upper body. So also becoming more mindful of if you're really gripping hard on the strap. So try to keep a lightness, a light grip on the strap. We're not holding on for dear life. Maybe sliding that right leg out. Just holding for a couple more breaths here. And then taking both sides of the strap into the left hand, placing your right hand on the right side of the hip, and slowly taking that leg out to the side as far as you can, feeling that stretch on the inner thigh of the left leg. Trying not to rotate your right glute up off the mat. Good. Inhale, bringing that leg back up to center. Transferring that grip to the right hand now, and allowing yourself to surrender into that twist with your left leg over the right side. Good, one more breath. Inhale to slowly bring it all the way back up. Slowly removing your band and bringing that leg all the way down to meet the other. Ooh, hopefully you feel nice and balanced after that one. All right, and one more thing that we're going to see and do before we move on to our final relaxation posture is we're going to check on the internal rotation of our hip. So you're going to need the strap for that again. And we're just going to take our right knee in towards our chest. And take that strap again, right where you had it on that foot. But this time you're going to keep your knee bent at a 90-degree angle. So with the hip, external rotation is bringing the hip in closer towards like a pigeon type of pose. And internal rotation of the hip is taking it out to the other side. So we're going to check in with our internal rotation. So just a couple of times, trying to keep your knee where it is. And if you even want, you can take one hand onto the outside of the knee and hold your strap with the right hand. Just see if you can bring the foot out to the side, keeping the knee stable, and then bring it in. Slowly taking the foot out and in. Out and in. So just trying to safeguard that knee from moving with the foot. Now, if you have pain in the front of the hip while you're doing this, stop. Okay, so that's not good if you're feeling pain there. Otherwise, just working on that rotation. A couple more. So a lot of people with hip dysfunction, this will be very limited. That's okay, because mine is too. I have very poor internal rotation on my hip. My external is decent. Internal is what I need to be working on. Good, we'll do two more. Good. Slowly release that. And we'll take it to the other side. So bringing that left hip in towards the chest. Bringing that strap on. So let's hold the strap with the left hand. Safeguard the outside of that knee so the knee doesn't move with your foot. So taking it out and in, out and in. So it's actually very interesting because my right hip, I had a labral tear that I got fixed and my hip was impinged. But my left side, same thing is going on, but it's not fixed yet. And I'm noticing that this side really has no internal rotation at all. So that is very interesting, but makes a lot of sense. Good, a couple more. Good, 3, 2, and 1. Good, release it out. So I know I said we had one more thing before our relaxation, but I forgot about the other pose that I wanted to do, and that's a pigeon on our back. So just cross your right ankle over your left thigh, kind of like what we were doing before with that figure 4 sitting on our tush. And then you're gonna grab underneath your left thigh and stretch that leg up towards the ceiling. Just point and flex your foot. So basically what this is here is a pigeon pose on your back. Now if you've ever taken a yoga class before, a public yoga class, you've probably done a pigeon pose before. I'm not a huge fan of pigeon pose, to be honest. Pigeon pose requires deep hip mobility and external rotation that a lot of people do not have. So people try to force themselves into this pose that they should not be doing and end up getting injured. Pigeon pose has a big predisposition for hip labral tears, also because of the positioning of your knee. You can hyperextend and get meniscus injuries. So there's a lot of things that make me a little nervous to teach in regular public classes, especially to beginners. Good, slowly release and switch. So my personal belief is, because pigeon pose is a big one for hip opening, there's so many other safer and more effective ways to stretch the hips that you don't even need to do a pigeon pose. And you can do it on your back anyway. So that's my personal belief. I do talk a little bit more about that in the blog as well. Good, just holding this for a couple more breaths. Good, and release. All right, so here's where we're gonna need our pillow. This is my most favorite restorative pose in the entire world, and it stretches, restores, releases the psoas muscle. So I'm going to encourage everyone to stay in this pose a long time, or however long time allows. So you're gonna take the bolster or the pillow underneath your hips. So kind of starting the lower, mid to low back, and then it comes all the way down to the glutes. So almost like right now you're in a supported bridge. You're gonna open your arms out and then slide the legs all the way out. So your hips are just lifted up slightly. Oh my gosh, this pose is literally heaven to me. I could stay in it all day. So please let your body just relax and soak in all the hard work that you just did. Just feel your body melt onto the mat here, breathing into your hip space. Thank you guys so much for tuning in to this week's video. As always,
If you have a certain body part, or even if it's a certain sport that you want a video on, please let me know in the comments. I would be happy to deliver. And again, make sure that you check out the blog for more details about everything you want to know about the hips. So with that said, I hope you have a wonderful day, and thank you again for tuning in. Namaste.